Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Rohit. Greetings to you from Rainbow Children Hospital. A very warm good morning. We want to continue with our Sunday webinars that we have been doing. There were two that we had done in the previous Sundays. The first one was on vaccinations. The second one was on COVID infections. Today we'll pick up a very important topic where most of our parents are asking us that how do we manage fever? So it's not about COVID. It's just that we have a symptom which is fever. So what do we do? Do we get worried? Do we panic? Or do we go to the hospital or not? So the topic for today is fever. How do we manage that in the situation of COVID pandemic? So with me, we have two pediatricians with us. I have with me Dr. Farhan Sheikh. Dr. Farhan Sheikh is a pediatrician as well as a pediatric intensivist at our Banjara Hills Rainbow unit. Dr. Farhan, maybe you can say hi to everyone. And then we also have Dr. Chandrasekhar, who's also a pediatric intensivist and a pediatrician in our Hydernagar unit. And Dr. Chandrasekhar, you also can say hi to everyone.
Good morning.
So what we will do is, before starting, just wanted to mention that we have, one second, yeah. So just wanted to mention that we have put our previous sessions onto the YouTube. So if you just put, Rainbow webinars for parents and families, you should be able to see the two. The first one we had done on 19th of July, which was all about vaccination in COVID-19 pandemic situation, which is on your left, which was done by Dr. Preetham and Dr. Faisal. The next one that we did was more detail on COVID-19 infection, which was done last Sunday with Dr. Venkatalakshmi and Dr. Vijayanand. And once we finish this session, we also will put in YouTube. So those who have missed it can definitely make sure that they watch it, because it's a very important topic that has been asked by a lot of parents who come to visit our hospital. So let's start. So the first question that we have heard very, very commonly is what temperature is considered normal, right? What is considered as fever and high fever? So that's the differentiation that people have been asking. Dr. Farhan, maybe you can just throw some light on this.
Yes, good morning to everybody. This is always a confusion because small children appear warm, and when a mother touches the head of the child, usually the head is warm and they panic, they think there is a fever. So if you check with thermometer, it's always better to check with thermometer rather than just believing on what you are touching and feeling. And with thermometer, if your temperature is less than 37.5, there is nothing to worry. So if a temperature is more than 37.5 degrees in centigrade, or more than 100 degrees roughly, more than in Fahrenheit, then you will call it as fever. And we see it, say it is mild fever, it is 102, moderate fever if it is 102 to 103, and if it is more than 103, 104, then it is considered as high fever. So some people panic at 102, they think it is high. 102 and above is considered moderate grade fever, and high is more than 103 fever.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, have you been advising anything different to your patient?
I completely agree with Dr. Farhan. So as you said, whether it is 102 or 101, so you don't have to worry too much about it as long as the child is active and playing. Never really doesn't matter.
Okay, that's good. So, Dr. Chandrasekhar, just continuing with that question, which method of checking temperature is most reliable, right? In adults, we put it in the mouth, or is it under arms, skin, rectal, ear? What is your view?
Say ideally, so we should be able to measure the temperature because scientifically that would give you the correct measurement of the temperature. But practically speaking, it is very, very difficult to check the rectal temperature, especially at home, where you already have a cranky child. If you want to put something in the rectum, the child will not cooperate. So the best alternative would be to check the temperature in the axilla. So whether you use the digital thermometer or traditional mercury thermometer is another question. But for the practical purpose, always better to use the digital thermometer, which is practically easily usable. And you can check in the axilla and if it is more than 100, you can take it as a fever. And there are a few other ways of checking the temperature, either ear or the skin. But we need to have expensive equipment to check the ear temperature.
Dr. Farhan, so do you think it is you have different modes of checking by the age of the child? Is there any kind of differentiation that is needed?
Yes, as Dr. Chandrasekhar said, it's always better in children to use digital thermometer. Mercury thermometer keeps breaking. Then sometimes we have seen children swallowing the mercury, accidentally. Then they're panicking coming to the hospital. So better is to use digital thermometer. Rectal is most accurate, but it is little difficult also and uncomfortable for the child as well as parents. Ear is reliable, very reliable in fact, but very costly thermometers. So practically use simple digital thermometer, keep under the arm, don't add +1, and if it is more than 100 without adding +1, take it as fever. Mouth and skin not very reliable because it depends that because of sweating, there are so many factors. The temperatures in the mouth and skin may vary depending on the child drinking some cold water or hot water also. So check in the armpit, don't add +1, more than 100, take it as fever, use digital thermometer.
Okay. Dr. Farhan, so what would you say is the temperature, what temperature is safe to manage at home, or you wait,
Yes.
and when to worry and visit the doctor?
Yeah. See, any fever which is in a child who's less than 3 months, even mild fever, it is not safe. If a child is less than 3 months, they are likely to have less immunity. And if they have got even mild fever, 100 degree, 100.5, it is always better to contact some doctor, examine, get the baby examined by a pediatrician, less than 3 months. Between 3 months to 6, 7 months, 8 months, 100 to 101 is fine. But if the temperature is more than 101, 102, in less than 6 months child, between 3 months to 6 months, again, better to consult a doctor. After 6 months to 8 months of age or 9 months of age, 102 fever also you can manage at home and contact doctors only when the temperature is above 103, 104. And there is nothing to worry actually. Most your children, no matter how good care you take, they are going to have fever. Particularly after 5, 6 months, they touch dirty things, they put finger in the mouth, they can catch infections or from the surrounding, from anybody else. So fever is a part of life. You should learn to live with it and check the temperature properly. And if there is fever, don't panic, just give some paracetamol and wait and watch. Avoid giving medicines which contain ibuprofen or mefenamic acid or Meftal-P, which is very famous. As soon as the fever is high, parents panic and give Meftal-P. Don't do all those things. Never give aspirin for children less than 16 years of age. Just manage. As I said, less than 3 months, come to hospital. 3 to 6 months, more than 102, come to hospital. And after 6 months, you can manage 102 fever also, as long as your child is playful, active. And you should worry only if the fever is very high, more than 103, 104, or the child is not eating properly, child is looking drowsy, child has neck stiffness or skin rash along with fever. These things should alert you. And or the fever is not coming down with simple paracetamol or crocin. You give crocin, but fever is still there. So these are the things you need to worry about and then go to doctor.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, so what Dr. Farhan said is, typically all of us parents here is for normal children. But in case of children with special needs or with compromised status, or who are not generally well, do you have a different benchmark for them?
As Dr. Farhan said, it's not a magic number. We don't have any temperature aspect to say that the temperature is safe to wait. It's a combination of other things. So whether the child is interacting with adults or other children, or is he able to tolerate liquid, and how is he playing when there is no fever. Majority of whenever they have a fever, they'll be slightly cranky and dull. They'll be sick. But once you give your fever medicines, once the temperature comes down, if the child is active, alert, and playing, probably we could say it's safe to wait.
Okay.
Especially for more than 3 months. If they're less than 3 months, obviously you have to bring him to the hospital immediately, or you have to take some medical.
Got it. Got it. So just continuing that, Dr. Chandrasekhar, see, one of the most common questions that is coming is, fever can be through because of multiple causes. So everyone just gets scared about COVID. But it could be dengue, it could be flu, it could be gastroenteritis, whatever. So how do you cope with fever in such situation? How do you differentiate? What should the parents do?
It is quite difficult to differentiate whether it's a COVID or a common cold or the flu or the dengue, because all of them are viral infections. Especially if you really see the cold and the flu and the COVID infections, they're caused by the viruses. It belongs to the same group. You will have a low-grade fever, runny nose, cough, and chill will be active in between the fever episodes. And unless until we do the testing, it is quite difficult to differentiate. And when it comes to dengue, probably you could say they will have high fevers, more than what you normally see in coughs and colds and cold infection. And sometimes they might develop a rash in a dengue on day 3 or 4. When it comes to COVID, especially, they might have more severe fever than the common, and more likely they might have more loose motion when you compare with the flu. If the adults or the teenagers, probably they could say that they lost the sensation of smell. Probably that would help you. Pretty much three of them are the same viral infection.
Dr. Farhan, have you made any kind of, your algorithm to differentiate fevers?
Yes, this is a very confusing time because dengue has started as it is raining and we are still struggling with COVID. And because the temperatures are falling, there is always a flu also on the corner. So as Dr. Chandrasekhar said rightly, fever with cold, cough, usually think about flu. But yes, COVID also can present with fever with cold and cough. And it's very difficult to differentiate, I agree. And in generally viral fevers, there will be fever, you give some paracetamol, fever settles down, and when there is no fever, the child is very playful, active. So that is usually a assuring thing that, okay, there is nothing serious. But if there is a high fever and you give paracetamol, fever is not responding to paracetamol, or it is responding, fever is not there, but still your child is very irritable, cranky, not eating well, and not interacting properly with the people around, then it may be a worrisome thing, particularly during COVID-19 epidemic. If there is history of contact with a positive COVID-19 patient, or there is history of travel or history of people coming and meeting, visiting your house, then you should be a little more alert and then contact early rather than late. Dengue usually starts with very high fever, and from day 2, day 3, you will have a red rash in most of the patients. So yes, that there, and there will be a lot of mosquito bites or mosquito ridden areas. So this is how roughly you can differentiate. It's very difficult. So if your child is having very high fever, not responding to paracetamol, or responding to paracetamol, but child is still cranky, not eating well, not feeding well, then better to consult somebody and then let the doctor decide whether it is COVID, dengue or flu.
Yeah, Dr. Chandrasekhar, there is a question where they said you talked about, presence of rash, then high fever. But what if, you have a rash, but there is no fever? So, do they have to be concerned, or any advice you can provide?
Say, many viruses would give you the so rash usually indicates that we're dealing with a viral infection. It's an isolated rash without fever. The child is otherwise playful, active. Probably we don't need to worry. Whereas if the child has a rash and the fever is not at all setting, and the child is not doing well, probably you just have to take some medical opinion to find out what exactly wrong with it.
Yeah, Dr. Farhan, see, just continuing with that, this is a rash without a fever. Now, small child, 18 months, just having runny nose, like typical sniffles we have, no fever, but just not working. Anything that they have, the parent has visited the hospital, but nothing is working. So, any advice? Should they come to hospital or should they wait?
I think if the rash is just for 2-3 days, mild rash, mild cold, child is otherwise playful and active, there is no need to visit the hospital. Just wait and just look around what the child has been doing. Usually less than 2-3 years old children, toddlers, they keep putting dirty things in the mouth and they keep catching infections frequently. They go to the bathroom, or wash basin, they play with the water, they keep drinking that water which is coming out of the tap. So these basic small things, or if there is overcrowding, joint family, multiple children having cold cough, they're giving infection to each other. So if they just focus on these basic preventive measures, avoid cold drinks, ice creams, chocolates, avoid playing them in the water or touching dirty things, then most of the times these things settle down on their own. If there is no fever and child is playful active, no need to worry about mild rashes or mild cold.
So, Dr. Farhan, like if there is a risk, okay, in the family, someone is COVID positive, then obviously we will suspect a fever potentially due to COVID. But let's say there is no other risk available. Is there any, specific indication that makes you say that it might be COVID and not something else? Any thoughts? Have you seen patients like that?
Yes, yes. So if there is any family history also, now with the ICMR guidelines say, if you are not symptomatic, you don't need to unnecessarily test yourself for COVID PCR. Wait and watch at home. So if you have a family member having COVID-19, isolate that person. That person should stay inside a room which is having a separate bathroom. So you should not share the same toilet with that patient. Keep your children away from infected patient and observe them. If they have got mild rash or mild cold, don't worry. If they get fever with rash or fever with cold cough, then yes, you need to contact a healthcare facility and tell them that there is a history of, there is a contact in the family, somebody positive, and my child is having fever with cold and all that, and then let them investigate whether this child is having COVID-19. Otherwise, for simple cold, mild rash or no symptoms at all, unnecessarily don't panic just because somebody is positive in the house, and don't try to rush to the hospitals.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, we talked about fever with some cold, cough, symptoms too. So, does the in case the child does have COVID, does it deteriorate very fast in children? Do they have some time, or should they come to hospital immediately?
So whenever they have a fever, so there's point in coming to the hospital immediately on the same day. So because now we're seeing COVID-19 patients. Last year also we had the fever. So the general advice for would be to keep them at home, do standard, control the temperature, make sure that you monitor them closely. That is most important. Just monitor the children at home. Make sure that you adequately hydrate them. Make sure that they pass urine at least 4 to 4 hours. Make sure that you don't have a fast meal and they are playing with you and they're interacting well with the parents. If, as a parents, are concerned with the state, then there is a reason for us to the hospital. So as long as the child is saying, you don't need to come to the hospital immediately. Whether it's a corona infection or whether it's first few days, probably we don't need to panic about the fever.
Got it. Dr. Farhan, just taking this a little further, now let's just go a little into management. So, any do's and don'ts of managing fever at home?
Yes, the do's, as we discussed these things in the previous slides also, that first of all, less than 3-month child, don't take fever lightly, go to hospital. Between 3 to 6 months, anything more than 1 or 2, go to hospital, let somebody examine. Even if mild fever, as Dr. Chandrasekhar said, there is no magic number. So even if it is mild fever, but if your child is not behaving normally, your child is looking very irritable, he's not interested in surroundings, he's sleeping a lot, not eating well, or he has got a rash on the body, or there is a neck stiffness, or he is getting irritated with the light. So these are the danger signs. You need to consult a doctor right away. So in the do's, you have to make sure that the child is not having these things. First thing, give a lot of water to drink, so keep the child well hydrated. Manage the fever with paracetamol. Don't trust only touching the child with hands and feeling for fever. Measure the fever properly in the armpit, as we discussed, with digital thermometer. Confirm the fever, make a record of the fever, how much fever, how many times it came, and how many times you had to give paracetamol. And if the fever is not settling with paracetamol, or as I said, if the fever is settling with paracetamol, but still your child is not eating well and all that, all these are danger signs, do go to the hospital. Sponging can be done, but again, in don't use cold water for sponging. Some people wrongly, they take ice cold water for sponging. That is not supposed to be done. You can take lukewarm water or tap water at room temperature, and sponging of the forehead. You can keep the wet cloth in the armpit of the child or in the groin also. So this is how you need to just do sponging and give paracetamol. and keep the child well hydrated and observe the child, and don't overclothe the child, or don't undress the child also completely. And as I said, if there is any danger sign in the form of irritability, not tolerating light, or neck stiffness, or drowsiness, or improper feeding, then immediately rush to the hospital. And less than 3 months, of course, definitely, even if mild fever. And what medications? The common medications is paracetamol, that is crocin, the tried and tested, or Calpol. So this can be given in less than 1 year. Generally, we recommend using Calpol drops or crocin drops, a small bottle with a dropper. And more than 1 year, generally, we recommend syrup, that is a bigger bottle. And you need to give the medicines. Don't give medicines which are combination of paracetamol with brufen, like Combiflam or Ibugesic Plus. These kind of drugs should be given only when some doctor has prescribed. Avoid using drugs like Meftal or mefenamic acid. Meftal P is very popular amongst parents. We have seen, as the moment the fever is high, they jump and give Meftal P. It has got its lots of side effects, and it's better to avoid unless and until a doctor has prescribed these drugs. Aspirin has to be avoided. Any child less than 16 years of age, if there is fever, do not give aspirin, because it has got very severe complications of causing Ray's syndrome. So stick to paracetamol, use it as per the dose suggested by the doctor. Generally, if you are using paracetamol drops, the small bottle with dropper, it is 1 ml 100 mg. So up to 6 months of age, you can give around 0.5 ml, and after that you can give around 0.8 to 1 ml. So that's the rough dose. And then you can, after 1 year of age, give crocin. Antihistaminics generally we avoid because they can cause drowsiness to the child, and then you will not be able to observe and monitor the child. If he's drowsy because of the drug or because of the infection, you will not know. But if the doctor has prescribed, then yes, you can give antihistaminics for cold as per the prescription of the doctor. Avoid mefenamic acid, Combiflam, Ibugesic, that is paracetamol plus brufen combination, and aspirin.
Great. Dr. Chandrasekhar, there's a common practice that let's start antibiotics. Do we need antibiotics in for fever in children?
Yeah, it is a very, very common question. So whenever we come to visit us in the clinic, or if we say the fever 102 or something, the majority of the parents would be asking us, doctor, why don't you put an antibiotic? So what we see in our day-to-day practice is about 90% of the children are having the viral infection. So viral infections doesn't need any antibiotic. What they need is just a close monitoring, monitor them for 72 hours, and majority of the times the fever settles down by 3rd to 5th day. And if the fever doesn't settle down, you take a medical opinion, let the doctor examine the child. Sometimes might not do any test, but if you find a focus for the infection, either a throat infection or a ear infection, if the doctor thinks that that is a bacterial infection, we give the antibiotics. If we have a dilemma whether it's the viral or the bacterial infection, sometimes we might order the investigations to differentiate whether it is a viral infection or the bacterial infection. And if we have any evidence of a bacterial infection in our investigations or in the examination, then only it is recommended that we should use the antibiotics. What I'm trying to say is, not in all the fevers, whether it's 103 or 102 or 100, all the fevers doesn't need antibiotics. And we see quite a lot of times that the parents use the antibiotics which were prescribed in the last episode of fever without even consulting any doctor. And when they come to see us, they say, doctor, we've been giving antibiotics. They think the parent should stop self-medicating them with the antibiotics.
Yeah, I think that's the most important. Don't self-medicate, especially from the last prescription, right, Dr. Karan? A lot of parents do that.
I totally agree. Many times they give antibiotics because the doctor had prescribed antibiotic in the previous episode. So they just open the file and they look at the previous prescription and start antibiotic. The problem is, if the fever is not settled after 2 days and they come to us, and if you want to do some blood test or urine test, then you can't do. If the antibiotic has been given for last 2 days, it will practically change all the clinical picture. Blood reports and urine reports will not be reliable.
Correct. So, Dr. Chandrasekhar, question. is it, in case I do need to come to hospital, is it safe to come to hospital at this time of the pandemic?
No, so many parents do question us. Basically, what we're doing is whenever they have a fever, we're advising parents to take the video consultation to start with, so that we can try to manage them without coming to the hospital, and we're going to assess them. If the patient is sick, they have to be physically examined by the doctor. They have to come to the hospital. And I agree that parents have some concerns about a COVID infection at this time. But as long as we're taking all the standard precautions, like segregating the flu patients separate and seeing them in the separate clinics, so that we keep our clean patients who come to the hospital for vaccinations or for other problems. So we can have the flu patients separated. And even in our hospital, nurses and building people and healthcare workers, they're taking the standard precautions. Then we don't need to worry too much about coming to the hospital. And we're making sure that patient doesn't have much time to wait to see the doctors, so that we can finish up the consultations as fast as possible.
So, Dr. Farhan, you are a pediatric intensive care specialist, but you also have patients who are coming for vaccinations, healthy patients. So, what are the steps you are taking or advising to your patients so that there's no mixing between these healthy children and the sick children?
Yes, actually, the vaccines appointments are given in a different time because most of the children coming for vaccinations are healthy children. So preferentially, they are called in the morning OPD slots. When I have 2 slots, morning and evening, vaccination patients are generally called in the morning slot. And then all the standard precautions are taken in keeping them, not making sure that they're not waiting for a long time in the waiting area. And we are ourselves wearing mask and eye protection and gowns and hand hygiene, and making sure that the attendants don't interact with a lot of people, and quickly get out of the hospital after the vaccination is done. So these precautions we are taking from our side.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, just reiterate it again. I'm still getting a lot of questions on, can we delay vaccination? Should vaccinations be taken during the pandemic? Maybe you can just reiterate that question again.
Earlier, when we first started the lockdown in the first few weeks, because we were not sure how long it is to take. So the first few weeks, even the government recommendation was not to give the vaccines. But as it's been nearly 3 to 4 months that we're into the pandemic, and we don't know how long we're going to have the pandemic. So the current recommendations are, it's always better to complete the vaccinations, but make sure that you take the standard precautions while you're delivering the vaccine. But make sure that they don't catch up the virus or the COVID infection in the hospital or wherever you take the vaccine. So to avoid that, you can opt for the home vaccinations, where our team of doctors and the nurses would come and give the vaccine at their home. Or as Dr. Farhan said, you can take the vaccinations in the separate clinic where you don't see a fever or cough or cold patients, where you have a separate billing and separate nurse who will take care of the children, and a doctor who will specifically take care of vaccinations. In that way, we can completely decrease the risk of contacting any viral infections.
So basically, both of you agree that it is safe to come for vaccination. Don't stop it. Don't delay it. Just come over and get it done. It's quite safe. Okay, that's good. Dr. Farhan, we talked about vaccination, but vaccination also leads to fever. Should people worry? And then there are some people who say, there are fever-free vaccines. Are they less effective? Should I go for only for painful and fever vaccinations? Some thoughts there will be very helpful.
Yes. Fever can come after any vaccine, even so-called fever-free vaccines also, there is always a chance that there may be fever. Generally, the fever after the vaccination will be in first 24 to 48 hours. It won't be beyond second day. after the vaccination, and usually it will be mild fever between 100 to 1 or 2. So manage with paracetamol at home. If the fever is more than 1 or 2, like moderate to high grade fever, or going on beyond second day, the fever is still there on third day, fourth day, then it is unlikely because of the vaccination, maybe because of some other reason, and then you need to consult a doctor. So that is one thing. Second thing, fever free versus fever wala vaccine. This basically relates to only DPT vaccine. There are all other vaccines which are practically you can't say fever free or with fever, like chickenpox vaccine, MMR vaccine. They are all Prevnar, so they can cause fever, they may not cause fever, but only it's about DPT, because DTAP is fever free and DPT can cause pain and fever. Still, there is no strong evidence to suggest that this is better or that is better. All developed countries like Europe, America, they have done away with the fever wala vaccine like DPT, and they are giving acellular pertussis vaccine, that is DTAP, which is basically a fever free vaccine from last 10 years. So it's up to the choice of the parents what they want, and we usually give them a choice. We tell them that both are fine if you want, and if there is a vaccine which can cause fever like DPT, plain DPT vaccine, it may cause fever and pay for 2 days. And if it is more than 2 days and high fever, then it is not likely to be because of vaccine. Come to the hospital and show us. That's the thing. What do you say to Chandrasekhar?
Yeah, as Dr. Farhan said, so in the Western world, the standard practice is they only give the painless vaccines. So they don't have any option whether it's the pain vaccine or the painless vaccine. There's no concrete evidence to say which one is better. And especially if some children who are having some kind of neurological conditions, sometimes the neurologist actively advise not to take the pain vaccines. They would recommend that they will take the painless vaccine.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, one quick question for you. So you did mention about video consultation, right? So people are asking how to go video consultation. So obviously, I would like to mention to everyone that you can call a call center. The call center number is available on the website. They will set up a video consultation with any doctor of your choice. It can be Dr. Chandrasekhar or Dr. Farhan. But the question here, Dr. Chandrasekhar, is, is video consultation effective enough for you to diagnose a patient, a child? Video quality is not very good sometimes. You need to examine. How effective has been your video consultation experience?
Okay, so far for the last 3 months, we have been doing the video consultations. The way it works is, if as a clinician, if I'm comfortable that I got the information, whatever I need, by either asking questions to family or by quickly examining the child, then we're telling them not to come to the hospital. If the patient is sick and if we're not able to get the information either over the video or the phone consultations, we're advising them to bring the child to the hospital so that we can examine them physically, so that we can make sure that we're not missing anything concerning diseases with the child.
So, Dr. Farhan, what is your experience? Are you seeing that post video consultation, you are advising them to come to hospital, or is video consultation sufficient for you to manage the child?
Yes, I do advise some people to come and visit because it's not possible to consult everybody on video consultation. If the child is playful, active, and there are simple symptoms like cold, cough, or loose motions, yes, you can manage on video consultation. But if the child is having high-grade fever, or some jaundice or something, it's very difficult to consult on video. Unfortunately, some parents, when they take appointment, they're getting angry when we are asking them to come to hospital and show. They're saying, then why did we take appointment for VC when you're asking us to come? They need to understand that everything you cannot consult on video consultation. So I agree. Every patient we can't. We can answer simple queries and simple cold, cough, loose motions. We can tell them what is danger sign and we can advise them, but we can't manage everything on video consultation.
That is correct. That's very helpful. Dr. Chandrasekhar, any special considerations for managing fever in children who are less than 3 months of age, very small children?
Yeah, the concern with children less than 3 months is they might not show the symptoms and signs as we see in older children. one. And the second thing would be their immunity levels are quite low. So even a simple infection, especially if they have any bacterial infection, they might become very sick. So that is why the standard advice across the world is that anybody who's having fever, especially if it is less than 3 months, they have to be seen by a doctor, so that the doctor can physically examine the child and decide whether they have to do any blood test or whether they need to keep them in the hospital, or if the doctor feels that they don't need to either investigate them or keep them in the hospital, the doctor would advise what needs to be done at home. So whereas if they are more than 3 months, probably you can wait for 1 or 2 days, but especially if they are less than 3 months, it's quite important they take some medical opinion immediately.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Farhan, this is continuation to the question, the answer that you had given. See, we are a very diverse country, right? Various cultures, various languages, lots of old remedies, nuskhas, stuff that keep happening. So, the questions are coming that, is there any special diet for fever? Can we give homemade remedies? Can we give a bath to children if they have fever? Just practical tips, considering our culture and civilization.
Bathing, yes, you should give bathing. There's no problem as long as the child is otherwise comfortable. Bathing can be given, and there's no special food as such, but just avoid cold drinks, ice creams, chocolates, junk food ordered from Swiggy or Zomato. Those kind of things when your child is not well, because when the child is unwell, child may start asking for these kind of things to the parents, and then parents get emotional and they start. So better to avoid these things. And there is nothing special like to improve the immunity. Some foods are there like vegetables better. High protein diet is always good. High carbohydrate diet is not considered good, so avoid high carb diet. And vegetables, multivitamins can be started as a supplement during fever, like Zincovate or any good multivitamin in the form of syrup or drops can be started. Sleeping is very important, so child should be allowed to have a comfortable sleep for at least 8 to 10 hours when the child is not well. So rest is important, and bathing is important. Good food is important, and homemade food preferably, and junk food should be avoided. And vegetables and high protein diet should be preferred to high carb diet.
Excellent. Um, just continuing with you, Dr. Farhan, what are febrile seizures?
Yes.
What do we do in such cases?
Yes, particularly if there is any family history, we see some children doing a seizure. Seizures means they will have uprolling of the eyeballs, they will have frothing at the mouth, and they will have jerky movements of the hands and legs, which lasts usually for a few seconds to maximum, 1 minute. And it doesn't happen for all the children, but those children who are more susceptible or with family history, they can have. And some people think that seizures will happen, febrile seizures will happen only when there is high fever, which is not true. So even with mild fever, they can have a febrile seizure if they have a tendency for this. It usually happens between 6 months of age to 6 years of age. And when the child had fever because of cold, cough, loose motions, any other infection, develops fever and then seizures. And then don't panic, because usually parents panic and they try to do a lot of other things. Just relax and just make the child lie down on the tummy. That is called prone positioning, and turn the head to one side, because during seizure there is always a risk of vomiting, and then the child vomits and the vomiting can go into the lungs, that is aspiration. So just put the child on the tummy, turn the head to one side, and if the child vomits, the vomiting will come out. And as I said, the seizures will usually last for a few seconds to 1 minute. Then the seizures will stop in most cases, and when the child will be sleeping for some time, at that time you can just take the child and then go to a nearby hospital and make sure that the child is fine. Usually child will wake up after 30 minutes to 1 hour time. So just get your child examined. Don't panic. But once a seizure has happened with febrile seizure, then there is always a chance that again it can happen. It's not that every time when the child has fever, child will be having a seizure, but there is an increased risk. So then you need to be a little more careful. Keep the fever reducing medicines in the house. When the child starts going to the school, you need to keep a information to the class teacher. Tell them that if the child gets fever, immediately give this medicine and call us. So basic precautions, no need to panic, no need to talk about these things continuously in front of the child, because then the child starts developing a phobia or a complex because of that. So you don't need to do that. These children after 6 years of age, they don't get any seizures after fever, even if it is high fever. So these children will be totally normal mentally, developmentally, and they will be good achievers in the academics. So there is no need to panic unnecessarily, no need to discuss with too many people, and no need to give a complex to the child, but take these basic simple precautions. If the seizures occur even after 6 years of age, or if the seizures are occurring before 6 years of age, 6 months of age, then it is abnormal. Then if child having seizures between 6 months to 6 years with fever is not a serious matter, it is called febrile seizure. But if the seizures are occurring without fever or less than 6 months of age or more than 6-7 years of age, then you should worry. Or if there are too many episodes of seizures, like in 6 months 3-4 times the child had fever with seizures, then only you need to worry. Then also you need to worry. Otherwise there is no need to worry. There is no need of any CT scan. There is no need of any neurology consultation if there are only 1 or 2 episodes in 1 or 2 years. There is nothing to worry. Just manage and relax and control the fever with paracetamol.
Great, that makes sense. Now let's move one step ahead, Dr. Chandrasekhar. If the child develops COVID-19, right, either because of parents or family or whatever, then is there any difference in managing that fever? Anything that you can provide tips to the parents?
Yeah, for the last 2 weeks, we've been seeing quite a lot of families who are contacting us saying that one of their family member is positive for COVID, and the child was having a fever. But if the child is otherwise well, we don't need to do anything differently than what we do for our normal fevers. We just give the crocin and make sure that you give plenty of liquids. If you have a saturation of pulse oximeter at home, monitor the saturation. Make sure that you give healthy food like what Dr. Paran said. And what is important is we just need to monitor them closely. If they're well, they can stay at home. If they're not well, they have to be seen by a doctor and they have to be examined physically. And depending upon the physical examinations, then we'll decide whether we need to do any further investigations. So as I said, at home, we take all the standard infection control measures like wearing mask, keep the child in isolation, and make sure that your clinical waste is safely disposed, and make sure that you monitor the child appropriately.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, there is, we hear about, I think Rainbow is also offering home quarantine services. A lot of your patients also are on these services. What is this about? Does it help?
Yeah, home quarantine definitely helps to manage the COVID positive children. So because obviously majority of them, they don't need to come to the hospital or they don't need to stay in the hospital, but they need to be in an area where we can monitor them closely and we can support the family when needed. So in this home care package, we're going to give them N95 masks and personal protective equipment and the safety disposable bags also. And they'll be under one consultant supervision, where the consultant will do the video consultation on every 3 days if the child is stable. Child is unstable, or if the parents have any concern, we're there to help them either over the phone or the video consultation. And the nurses will be monitoring them every day, and they want to check the temperature and the oxygen levels. They're going to see how the child is doing. If they have any other concerns, the nurse will be in touch with us. If the family thinks that the child has to be seen by a clinician immediately, they can come to the emergency room separately for COVID patient, where the child can be assessed by the team of doctors. And if they need to stay in the hospital, we will be transferring them to a separate Rainbow COVID Center, which is based in Banjara Hills. So in a way, what happens is probably the families are very comfortable with this kind of support where they can have access to the healthcare system 24/7.
Yeah, Dr. Farhan, Dr. Chandrasekhar mentioned about treating the COVID positive children. Right? Is it done in all Rainbow hospitals, or would you find something specific?
No, sir. COVID-19 positive patients, we are not managing in all the Rainbow centers. Even the road number 2, Banjara Hills, which is near Park Hyatt, we are not admitting and managing COVID-19 positive patients there. We have a screening facility there, that is COVID-19 clinic, which is near the emergency room. It is also outside the emergency room actually. And when a patient, the parents, if they find that their child is COVID-19 positive or suspected, and they rush to route number 2, Banjara Hills, we ask them to ask the security personnel who will be standing there at the gate, where is COVID-19 clinic? And then our security executives will guide them to the COVID-19 clinic, where a doctor and nurse will first screen them, assess them. They will make a video also. They will discuss the patient's clinical condition with us. Then we decide, because most of the COVID-19 positive patients don't need hospital admission. If they're stable, playful, active children, mild fever, mild cold cough, mild loose motions, we ask them to stay at home, which Dr. Chandrasekhar just now said about home quarantine package. And we ask them to stay at home, follow home quarantine instructions, and keep in touch with us on video consultation. So when we examine, our team examines in COVID-19 clinic, and they feel that yes, this child is little sicker, this child needs admission, CT scan, then we get all those things done and then ship them to a separate facility, which is on road number 10, a separate building actually, secluded completely from all other normal children. And we admit these patients in that. That is our Rainbow COVID Center, or RCC. And we manage the patients, positive patients over there. And we have got a very good experience now of managing more than a lot of patients, actually 70, 80 patients we have already managed, and still managing successfully, very, very good results. And we have no complications or no problems till now. So we encourage parents to contact us, and we can guide them exactly what to do. But we are not managing positive cases in all the other centers, so they can be rest assured that their visit to our hospital will be safe. And when they bring a positive patient also to road number 2, they will not be mixed up with other children or other families. And separately in COVID-19 clinic, they will be screened, and then we ship them to a road number 10 facility to manage them.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Farhan. So both of you will just do a little bit of rapid fire. The simple questions people are asking. So just you can answer. So Dr. Chandrasekhar, any recommendation of the right thermometer to use? It's surprisingly very commonly asked by everyone.
No, I don't know the brands, but whatever is feasible practically in your budget, try to buy a digital thermometer. That's the only thing I would say.
It should be CE certified. It should be CE, C and E. Any electronic medical item, a thermometer or saturation monitor, ideally should be CE certified, which is a British standard for quality. Like in India, we have ISI. So that is considered to be good, or it can be FDA approved. Either FDA approved or CE certified thermometers are considered more reliable, or even saturation monitors.
Okay. Dr. Farhan, if the family wants to travel and the child has mild fever, should they go or not go? By air.
We discourage traveling, yes. And if there's a real emergency, family emergency, they have to travel then. And then they need to take all the precautions, putting a mask and controlling the fever with paracetamol. But generally, if a child is running fever, better not to travel. Better not to travel. But if it is an emergency, you can't do anything, then you will have to with all the precautions. I think at the airport itself, they will stop. If the child has fever and they find the child is having fever, they are not going to allow you to travel.
Yeah. What if they have a lot of seasonal allergies or something? Is it okay traveling by air?
This should not be a problem. If they have allergies, still they can travel.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, we mentioned about coming safe to come into hospital, right? But if some children have something not very serious, but they have continuous gastric problem, 6-7 month old child, should they come to hospital, or will a video consultation be enough?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question again? I'm not able to hear.
They have, the child has frequent gastric problem, specificity is not there. I don't know what it is, but should they come to hospital or video consultation will be enough?
No, probably video consultation would be okay, because at least you can discuss your problem with the consultant. Then the consultant would decide whether is it worth coming to the hospital, because that would help us to screen the patients. Because majority of the times, if we are very comfortable with the history and the findings, then probably we might say you can wait.
Yeah. Dr. Farhan, for smaller babies, less than 3 months, any specific precautions that you would say advise for patients? Smaller babies.
Breastfeeding.
Okay. So one word, just continue breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding is the most important weapon against different infections and loose motions and cold, cough, all those things, and in the long run also. So just continue breastfeeding. Don't start formula. Don't think that my milk is less. Let me give 1 time, 2 time formula, because it is sweet in taste. The feeding through bottle is very easy for the baby. Nipple is soft, hole is big. Baby develops nipple confusion. Many mothers think that I'll give breastfeeding, bottle feeding just once in a day, twice in a day. Rest of the time I'll be feeding my milk. But that doesn't happen. Over a period of 2-3 months, the baby starts developing nipple confusion, starts preferring bottle, stops mother's milk, and once mother's milk is stopped and baby is completely on formula, there is always a risk of different allergies and different infections. So best immune booster, less than 3 months, breastfeeding up to 6 months, continuously exclusive breastfeeding. And when you're giving bath to the baby, don't put finger in the mouth to clean the tongue. Those things can cause infections to the baby. Keep the baby away from other people, overcrowding, multiple people, handling the baby should be avoided. If there are different age group children in the house, they should not be touching this baby, kissing, coming near to this baby unnecessarily. There's a risk of infections. These basic precautions up to 5-6 months, and then 5-6 months age onwards, homemade food, avoid again Cerelac, Farex, those kind of things, and formula milk till 1 year, and the children will be with good immunity and no problems in the long run also.
Very good. Dr. Chandrasekhar, from all the experience of the last 4 months, what is the first symptom of COVID in children, let's say below 6 years? Is it cold? Is it runny nose? Is it fever? Is it cough? What are you seeing?
The first symptom is somebody in the family has COVID positive. That is a common symptom which we're seeing. Because majority of the children what we're seeing, they're not having either a fever or the cough or the cold. So whatever I have seen in the last few weeks, about 90% of them, the history is like that. Either the grandparents or the parents who are staying in the house positive, and on contact tracing, when they test these children, they came positive. And few of them are having fevers, maybe. Few of them a low-grade fever and the cough. And 1 or 2 children had loose motions. But majority of them, they're not having any symptoms at all.
Okay. So that actually, nearly completes all questions. So Dr. Farhan, a quick, can you just provide, no, there's one important question. We completely missed it. Can my child develop fever after recovering from COVID-19 infection? Dr. Farhan, maybe you can cover, and then Dr. Chandrasekhar also can.
Yes. There is a very unique COVID-19 presentation in children, which is not seen in adults actually. And that is called post pediatric multi-inflammatory syndrome, where the child gets COVID-19 infection, recovers from that infection in 10-15 days, and then in 3rd week or 4th week develops a new fever with skin rash. Then these children can be very sick, and their hearts also can get affected, and there are lots of problems. So this we are seeing in 3rd or 4th week after child recovers from the COVID-19 infection. So yes, there is a possibility of your child getting fever after recovering from COVID-19 infection, but it is not for all the patients. Very small fraction of children they develop. So parents need to be little alert. So if they have a child who is COVID-19 positive and they went in quarantine and they finished all the care of the child and 14-15 days have gone now and the child is out of quarantine, it's not that all is well. In children, I'm saying, they still can develop this syndrome where they get a new high-grade fever with skin rash and cold extremities. It can be very serious also. So any fever after 2nd or 3rd week after recovery of COVID-19 infection should not be taken lightly, and they should contact the doctors and then make sure that it is not COVID-19 related inflammatory syndrome.
Great. So Dr. Chandrasekhar, as a summary, can you just summarize for the parents on this issue of fever? What should they do? What should they be careful about? Just a brief summary.
Yeah, so what I would say is, please don't worry about there's the COVID or any other cold. It's just a simple fever. Monitor them at home. Check the temperature with thermometer. So that you adequately hydrate them and take the standard precautions. If you're worried, because the parents can judge children better than any other clinician or any other. If you feel that the child is not doing well, try to take some medical opinion. If the doctor says that by the clinicians physically, please don't hesitate to visit the hospitals and don't panic. The main thing is don't panic and don't worry about it.
Dr. Farhan, any last summarization from you?
Same thing, sir. Don't panic. We are there with the parents and their families to guide them. We have online consultation, video consultation. All fevers are not dangerous, and less than 3 months fever, don't take it lightly. Between 3 months to 6 months, more than 101, 102, yes, you need to contact somebody. Manage the fever with paracetamol. If the child is behaving abnormally in the form of drowsiness, not eating well, or rash on the body or neck stiffness, then consult doctors. If you can't travel, you can contact us on video consultation. And just don't panic. Just stay cool, and we'll go through this.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. There were a lot of questions regarding diet. So we will cover diet as a separate topic. We'll get a nutritionist and a pediatrician so we can cover all those. But in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, Dr. Farhan Sheikh is available on his email, which is Dr. Farhan, which is DRFARHAN at rainbowhospitals.in. And Dr. Chandrasekhar is available on Dr. Chandrasekhar, CHANDRASHEKHAR at rainbowhospitals.in. Write to them. They will respond to you with all your queries. And this video also will be available on YouTube within a couple of days. Please look forward it. Just make sure that everyone listens and does not panic. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. Have a great day. And signing off from Rainbow Hospitals. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.